Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachos, page 85. A, top of the page, with the words Ella, Rabbi Yochanan, Kashya. But according to, so having reconciled all the apparent contradictions between the two brisas, according to the opinion of Reish Lakish, the Gemara asks, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, who holds inferior produce cannot be consecrated as first fruits, the first brita is difficult, as it states that inferior produce can be consecrated. Right? The numerical value of Kashya is 411. Okay? All right. Tanai, the Tanya Shibagag, Vishibachova, maybe Koire, Shibaotzit, Vishibaspino, Ain maybe Koliko. The Gemara answers the Brightot cited above contradict Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. But there is a dispute between Tanaim with regard to this issue, as it is taught in Brightot with regard to produce that grew on a roof or that grew in a ruin. The owner brings it and recites the accompanying passage. With regard to produce that grew in a flower pot or that grew on a ship, the owner does not bring it at all. Rabbi Yochanan holds in accordance with that Braita. Yochana umamre lemoshe Yochana and Mamre, Joannas and Jambres. Interesting. Amre le Yochana umamre le Moishe. Teven ata machnis le Ephraim. Ephraim. Not Ephraim, but Ephraim with an ayin. Apparently it's different. Amar lehu amri inshi lemasa yarka shekol. The Mishnah states, and all meal offerings come only from the optimal produce. One of the places the Mishnah mentions as having good quality produce is Aphoraim. It's Aphoraim. Okay. The superior quality of its produce was so well known that Aphoraim was used as an example in colloquial aphorisms. In Moses and Aaron's first meeting with Pharaoh, Aaron cast his staff to the ground, whereupon it turned into a serpent. Pharaoh's necromancers then duplicated the feat, using their incantations, only to then be confounded when Aaron's staff swallowed up all theirs. See Exodus 7:10-12. The Gemara relates the conversation that took place. Pharaoh's two leading necromancers, Johanna and Mamre, said to Moses, you are bringing straw to Ephraim? Performing necromancy in Egypt, the world leader in sorcery, is like bringing straw to Ephraim, which is rich in the finest grains. Moses said to them, it is as people say, to a city rich in herbs, take herbs. If you want to guarantee that people will appreciate your merchandise, bring it to a place where they are familiar with it. Okay, that's it. Okay. Mishnah, new Mishnah. Ein mevi'in lo mi beis hazivolim ולא מבייס השלוחים, ולא מבייס האילן. Vim heavy, kashel. The Mishnah says, even when selecting grain for meal offerings from locations mentioned in the previous Mishnah, one may not bring as a meal offering grain from a fertilized field, nor from an irrigated field, nor from a field of trees, as such fields do not produce grain of optimal quality. But if one did bring a meal offering of grain from such fields, it is fit. Ketzad voise nerashana rashayno uishana shniya zayra koidem lepesach shivim yoim. How does one produce optimal quality grain? He plows the field during the first year, but he does not sow it. And in the second year he sows it 70 days before Passover. And in that manner it produces grain that will provide an abundance of fine, high-quality flour. Ketzad boideka gizbal machnis yadon soicho alaba avak pesura ad she yinapena. How does the temple treasurer inspect the flour to determine whether it is of sufficiently high quality? The treasurer inserts his hand into the flour. If, when he removes his hand, flour powder covers it, the flour is unfit until one sifts it with a fine sifter so that no powder will remain. But if the flour became wormy, it is unfit for use in a meal offering. Gemara, the Talmud says, Ketzad oise nera shana rishayna yibolahu hechiko ma nera shana rishayna shniya nera zora oidir ma nera shana rishayna shniya zora v'loi nera. Okay, the Mishnah states, how does one produce optimal quality grain? He plows the field during the first year, and in the second year he sows it. The Gemara clarifies what should be done in the second year. A dilemma was raised before the sages. What is the Tana saying? Is he saying that he plows the field during the first year, and in the second year he plows it and sows it? Or perhaps he is saying he plows the field during the first year, and in the second year he sows it without plowing it. Tashima Titanya Amar Rabbi Yossi Av Pite Kerozim Uchvar Achim Imole Smucha Yisiroshaim Oy Mevin Lahem Lefi She'en Mevin Es Oymel Ela Mina Sodois Hamudrabos V'hamenonaros Lechach Shebehen Chama Zerachas Ubehen Chama Shekaas. The Gemara suggests coming here as a resolution, as the Talmud writes. Rabbi Yossi says also concerning grain grown in Kerazayim and Kafar Achim, if only those places had been close to Jerusalem, they would have brought barley from them for the Omer. As the halacha is that one brings the Omer only from southern fields and those that were plowed for that purpose, as upon such fields the sun rises and shines, and from those fields the sun also sets. In other words, those fields are exposed to a lot of sunlight, so they produce a superior quality crop. Kerazayim and Kfar Achim were such fields, but they were too far from Jerusalem for their barley to be used for the Omer offering. V'shoynem zara koidem lepesach 70 yom kedei shetei smuch al hachamo v'yoyses kona zeras v'shiboiles zirtaim. The Braita continues, how does one produce optimal quality grain? He plows the field during the first year, and in the second year he plows it once, and then repeats the plowing a second time. And he sows it 70 days before Passover. It is done this way in order that the sowing will be done close to the time when the strength of the sun reaches its climax, and will thereby produce a high quality crop in which the length of a stalk is a hand span and the ear itself is 2 hand spans. Koitzeu uma'amer v'dosh v'zoyer v'bayrer v'toichen u'meraked u'meriyetz el gizbo v'gizbo machnis yodu l'soicho im also ba'avak omer lo chazor v'nipe oitza shenyo משום רבי nosson אמרו גזבר סך ידו שמן ומכניס לסויכה עד שמעלה כל אבקה. Then one reaps the grain and gathers it together into a pile, and then he threshes the grain and winnows it, and then he sorts the inedible admixture from the edible grain, and then he grinds the grain and sifts it and brings the flour produced to the temple treasurer, and the treasurer inserts his hand into it in order to check its quality. If upon removing his hand powder covers it, the treasurer says to the owner, go back and sift it a second time. The sages say in the Rabbanatan that the treasurer would perform a more thorough examination of the flour's quality. He douses his hand with oil and then inserts it into the flour until all of its powder will be brought up. The Gemara explains that the Braita provides a resolution to the dilemma. In any event, the Braita teaches that during the second year, the owner of the field plows it once and then repeats the plowing. It is explicit, then, that during the second year, the field should be plowed. The Gemara rejects this proof, but even according to your reasoning, ultimately the Mishnah does not teach that he plows the field and then repeats the plowing. Continuing on to 85b, just to keep the flow going, Brisa Katani Shana is only the Brisa that teaches that he plows and then repeats the plowing. It would appear then that the Mishnah and Brisa express different opinions, and it may be that according to the Mishnah, one does not need to plow in the second year at all. Haloi Kashya, the Gemara dismisses the suggestion. The Gemara answers that it's not difficult. Kan bavuda, kan b'shein avuda. It's not difficult. It's possible that the Mishnah and the Brisa do not disagree. And here, the Mishnah, which does not require plowing the second time, is referring to a cultivated field, whereas there, the Brisa is referring to an uncultivated field, and therefore it requires the field be plowed a second time. My Havela, the Gemara concludes. Tashima, okay. My Havela, Tashima, Titania, Nerchetzia v'Zerchetzia, Nerchetzia v'Zerchetzia. The Gemara concludes what halachic conclusion was reached about this matter. Come in here, the resolution from that which is taught in the Braita. For the first year, one plows the entire field during the first half of the year, and then he sows half of the field, leaving the other half fallow. For the second year, one again plows the entire field during the first half of the year, and then he sows the half of the field that was left fallow in the previous year. It is evident from this Braita that during the second year as well, the field is plowed before it is sown. All right, we'll stop here and continue on this Amud, but to finish it off, which is Amud Bet, the second Amud.